Skagit 911, what's your emergency?
It's not an emergency, but I need a sheriff to come out here to Summit Park Grange.
This is Tammy Gilden in Anacortes, Washington. She called 911 sometime before 11:50, the morning of October 28, 2009, when she and her mother noticed a man trespassing behind the Grange Hall. It's an event facility about half a mile from Mark Stover's house.
I just saw one guy.
Okay. Did you say anything to him?
Nope, I just backed up and pulled in front.
Tammy noticed that the guy was at the back of the property, where no one should be parked.
There's two vehicles, they're facing back to back.
One of those two vehicles was a white station wagon. The other was a black SUV.
They were transferring something back and forth or living back and forth or something.
What Tammy saw was both odd and disturbing. Whatever the object being transferred was, Tammy remembered it was large and covered in plastic.
My first thought was, oh, a body. I thought, oh, you're reading a murder mystery. Silly girl. That's not a body.
As they sat in their car at the front of the property, Tammy and her mom waited for a deputy to arrive. Tammy said the stranger got into the black SUV, leaving the station wagon behind.
I didn't see his face head on when we first pulled in. I saw him when he pulled next to us to leave.
He drove right up next to their car before stepping on the gas and speeding away.
We were scrambling to find pen and paper and write the license plate number down.
Tammy called the sheriff again.
Dispatch, can I help you?
Yeah, hi. I called about needing a sheriff at Summit Park.
They gave the dispatcher the license plate number and a description of the trespasser's car.
It's a black SUV.
Which direction did it leave?
He turned on Stevenson. He turned west on Stevenson.
He was driving toward downtown Anacortes. Minutes later, Skagit County Sheriff's Deputy Rick Duhame arrived and checked out the station wagon, and then went looking for the black SUV. It didn't take long.
I noticed the license number matched the piece of paper that the reporting party had given me. I turned around in the vehicle, made a traffic stop.
The deputy went up to the car window.
It was raining. He had sunglasses on, which is unusual. He was extremely nervous.
Deputy Duhame asked the man, who was hiding his eyes, for an ID.
He didn't listen to the question and then repeated my question to me, so he wasn't tracking the conversation we were having.
The deputy explained that he pulled the driver over for trespassing.
His story was he was headed to the casino, which is down the road.
During the conversation, the deputy noticed that the driver had some dog hair on his clothing, and he noticed a big bundle of blankets in the back of the SUV. He didn't think much of it. This just so happened to be the same morning that Mark Stover's employees reported seeing their boss tear out of his driveway in his white Chevy station wagon. And this traffic stop was just a few hours later. No one yet knew Mark was missing. The deputy took the driver's ID.
And went back to my patrol car, ran a driver's check on him, made sure that the car was registered to him. I pulled over Michiel Oakes.
And the bundle of blankets in the back? Only later would he learn that was Mark's dead body.
The whole case took off.
I'm Peter Van Sant. From 48 Hours, this is Trained to Kill, The Dog Trainer, the Heiress, and the Bodyguard. Episode 4, The Bundle in the Back. After the sheriff's deputy let Michiel Oakes drive away with just a warning, Michiel made a phone call, but not to his girlfriend, Linda Updike.
It was unexpected. It was out of the blue. It wasn't pre-coordinated.
It was to his ex-wife, Jennifer Thompson. She lived in Everett, Washington, about an hour south of Anacortes. We spoke in 2010.
And he said, hey, I am available this afternoon. I'm in your area. Are you available? I said, actually, yeah, I am. And he said, well, do you want to meet up? I said, sure.
Although they had been separated for about a year, Michael and Jennifer started talking again. She had emailed him just a few weeks earlier.
I had entered a relationship with someone, and it made me really reflect on my situation with Michael, because I can't say I didn't love him anymore. I was healing and moving forward, but it's not just done. And so I emailed him and said, I've met someone. I'm entering this relationship. Are you sure? Are you still sure?
Before she started something new, Jennifer wanted to know if her marriage to Michael was really over.
We had a pretty amazing relationship. Yeah, it had a lot of brokenness in it, but I don't know. Are you absolutely 100%? Had he said, yep, I'm sure, I would have said, okay, carry on, and moved forward. But he didn't say that. And he wrote back, no, I'm not.
This is October 2009.
Right.
When Linda Updike and Michael Oakes have become a couple, and what we've been told is they're deeply in love. He's telling you something else. He's telling you that in his mind it may not be over.
Yeah. And
your relationship with him.
And he told me that he didn't love her. I can't say what's true and what isn't. I don't know. But what he told me was that it wasn't like us. It was a convenience. They were partners. Like, they each had things that the other needed.
So when Michael called her that October morning, Jennifer agreed to meet him at a Starbucks.
And he looked very disheveled and frumpy. Like, just kind of, hair was poofy and clothes untucked, which is different because he's usually very meticulous and neat and tidy, tucked in belt, that kind of thing.
They sat together at a table in the corner of the coffee shop.
And we kind of have some general chit chat, and then he says, hey, there's a beach around here? And I said, well, it's Everett. It's a port. It's not very pretty, though. What are you looking for?
She suggested a beach they could go to.
I said, sure, that sounds good. He says, I have some time. He said, but my car is really full. There's no room for you, so I'll just follow you. That's fine.
Jennifer noticed that Michael parked far away from her and that his vehicle was caked in mud.
Well, on the way there was very strange because he was driving so carefully, laying low, trying not to draw attention to himself. And this is a man that flips a U-turn when it's convenient for him, even if it's illegal.
She said when they arrived at the beach, she watched him fumble with things in his car. Michael suggested the two of them go for a walk. Did he seem nervous?
No, at this time he seemed very calm, but the tension was so thick, the unspoken was so loud, and I felt, I don't know, it was really, really a strange, because he and I have very easy breezy conversations, so it was very weird, it was very uncomfortable.
Then, when they finished their walk, she said they each decided to stop at the bathroom before they left.
And so I went in, he went in, and I came out. And he was still in there. He was in there for a long time. And I sat on a picnic bench and just waited. And he came out and he was just distraught. Something happened while he was in there. He came out and his entire demeanor completely changed.
And so he looks upset?
He looks stressed out, like he's freaking out. He was just noticeably agitated and not okay.
What does he say to you?
Well, I said, are you okay? And he said, no, I think I'm in trouble. And I said, real trouble or like perceived trouble? And he said, like 10 to 15 years felony trouble.
Knowing that Michael could be over the top, Jennifer didn't know whether to take him seriously.
I also know this man to be very melodramatic, so I'm trying to assess him. I'm reading him and looking at him, and I'm thinking in my head, is this real? Is this not? At that point, he was sitting in my passenger seat and I was in the driver's seat. And he was very noticeably agitated, rubbing his temples and his hair, his fingers through his hair, and really vigilant, watching around, real paranoid, freaking out.
Looking out the windows.
Yeah, at one point a patrolman had come by and he really went crazy. And he said, I feel like they know, and I said, they don't know anything. You're just a guy sitting in a car in a parking lot. He says, you're right, it's just that guilty conscience thing. And
did you not say right then? They know what?
No, I didn't. I probably didn't want to know. Because if it was real, I didn't want to know. And if it was being dramatic, I didn't need to know.
Then Michael said something even more unsettling.
He made reference to if he was to be pulled over, he was just trying to get out of this area. And if he had been pulled over and law enforcement had seen what was inside his car, he'd go away for life.
After that disturbing comment, Michael got out of her car, into his, and drove away.
I think the part that disturbs me the most, my part of it, is when we parted ways that day, kissed him on the cheek. And that haunts me, because he had a body in that car.
Michael left Jennifer. He drove back up to Anacortes, then drove more than 250 miles, crossing the Cascade Mountain Range for a second time in the same day. That night, he returned to Linda Updike's house. From Linda's home surveillance camera, you can see Michael arrive just after 11:30 p.m. On a different camera, you can see Linda in a bathrobe come out to welcome him home. Their reunion would prove short. On the evening of October 29th, 2009, the day after Mark Stover went missing, Sergeant Gene Davis with the Okanagan Sheriff's Office got a call. We talked in 2010.
I checked into service around 6 o'clock and received a call from Detective Myers with Skagit County Sheriff's Department, advising that they're working on a missing person case, Mark Stover.
Sergeant Davis knew the name Mark Stover well. Months before, he had suggested Linda Updike get a protective order against Mark. He also had offered to help train her dog to attack.
And I told Detective Myers, I know Linda very well, and I know Oakes very well.
Detective Myers then told Sergeant Davis that they had a lead concerning Mark Stover's disappearance. The lead included a familiar name.
Somehow, Michael Oakes, got involved in this. So I initially heard this information and I placed a call to Dave, Chief Rodriguez, to let him know what was going on. He didn't answer.
Simultaneously, Linda calls me and she's pretty agitated, somewhat frantic actually.
This is Dave Rodriguez. Back in 2010, he was a chief deputy with the Okanagan Sheriff's Office.
She said an employee of Stover had just called her and said that the police were there, that Mark is missing, there's blood at the scene, and the dog's been shot. And she's very frantic. And she's saying, we're not sure what's going on, and we've not ruled out the possibility that some type of violence happened at his house by him, not onto him. And he's snapped and he's coming over here.
So Linda's thinking she may be next.
This is what she's conveying to me anyhow. And I said, are you there by yourself? And she said, no, that Oakes was there. And I said, well, you should be fine. But if you don't, maybe you guys should leave the house and go stay with your mother or somewhere else. She goes, that's a good idea. That's what we're gonna do.
Sergeant Davis and Deputy Rodriguez drove to Linda's place separately, unsure of what they were heading into.
It was 7 o'clock at night, and it was almost a typical fall, foggy, wintry, not wintry yet, but it was starting to mist, dark night.
Both investigators were familiar with Linda's house.
So we drove up to the house, and normally when we were going there to train with her dog, her camera system or possibly a sensor would say someone's coming up the driveway. She would always be out on the outside on the deck or whatever.
Instead of that usual warm welcome, the front door stayed closed. This visit to Linda's would clearly be different.
I used my spotlight, my high beams to, if they came out, they'd be blinded.
I tried calling her on the phone, and no answer. Yet her car was there, Oakes' car was there, the lights were on, no answer.
The deputies pulled in and parked.
I'm like, we're gonna have to go. Maybe something has happened now. Maybe Stover did come to the house in between the time that I talked to her. So we need to go to the house. So we go and knock on the door.
Linda answered the door and invited them inside.
She seemed a little surprised that we were there because I didn't, last I talked to her, I said, I recommend you pack some bags and go stay with somebody else. So I think she found that a little surprising that we showed up. But, other than that, nothing unusual. Invited us in. Initially, we didn't see Michael Oakes, but as we walked in the living room, he was walking up the stairs from a lower level.
The deputies told Michael to sit on the couch. This was after they searched between the cushions for any weapons.
I know Michael and Linda are into guns, and I asked if he was armed, and he said he was, and I removed a 9mm pistol from him. And at that point, we go into more of the questioning.
Was Linda armed as well?
No, she was not.
No.
Linda was in a chair nearby. Even though Michael wasn't under arrest, he was clearly a person of interest in this case, having been in Anacortes on the day Mark Stover disappeared. Sergeant Davis said they read Michael his Miranda rights, just in case he said something that could be admissible in court.
And we point out that we're here on a task from Skagit County to find out if you were here because your car was seen in the area of Stover's residence at this particular time. And I flat asked him, what were you doing over there? And that's when he said, I was over there, I was visiting my ex-wife.
Chief Deputy Rodriguez noticed how distraught Linda became when Michael said that he made the trip to see his ex-wife Jennifer.
So actually in my mind is, Oakes just got caught messing around with his ex-wife, and now current girlfriend just found out about it.
He said Linda left the room crying. Sergeant Davis went after her.
She kept on asking me, I don't know what's going on here. What's going on here? She asked, Gene, what's going on? I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on here. Numerous times to me.
Back in the living room, Chief Deputy Rodriguez continued to press Michael for an answer about why he went to visit his ex-wife.
Then he started to get pretty agitated, and he's looking around, and he goes, can I get up to find my medication? And we didn't have probable cause to have him under arrest. And I said, yeah, you're not under arrest. You can get up. So he's now looking around in the living room for his medication.
That's strange,
It is. And now Gene actually, Sergeant Davis, then I believe got the call from Skagit County. But in her house, like a lot of places up here, you don't get cell signal. He had to go out on the deck to actually get cell signal. So he's running around, I'm trying to keep an eye on him while he's looking for his medication. And then Linda comes out of the back room and asks me something, which diverted my attention briefly. And then when I looked back for Oakes, he had went down the stairs that he had come up when we initially got there.
Where'd he go?
He went downstairs. So I said, Linda, he's got to be at least, he's not under arrest, but he has to be within my sight.
Outside on the deck, Sergeant Davis was getting new information from Skagit County.
They advised that they had a search warrant signed and for us to take Oakes' vehicle. When I was outside, something caught my attention by Oakes' vehicle. I see Oakes open the back hatch, reach inside, and take out a plastic bag. Appears to be like a garbage bag.
When Sergeant Davis saw this happen, alarm bells started to go off in his mind. Why was Michael even outside? And what did he just remove from his car? Michael Oakes had just taken something out of his car, but the darkness and mist made it tough to see. Sergeant Gene Davis spotted Michael while outside talking on the phone.
So I sneak down to him, I light him up with my flashlight, and right when I hit him with the beam of my light, the plastic bag, he throws it over an embankment, and he starts going into the front of his car. I grab him, ask him what he's doing. You know, he's really agitated and nervous at this point. I'm looking for medicine, and then he goes right into it. He goes, "Why are you giving me the 3rd degree? Why are you treating me like a suspect?" I said, "Well, you're acting suspicious." And at that point, I take control of Michael Oakes and escort him back into the house.
Chief Deputy Dave Rodriguez was inside with Linda when Sergeant Davis brought Michael back.
So he walks in with Oakes. What do you say to the sergeant?
Well, Sergeant said to me what he just saw Oakes doing, and to me that just threw the switch.
Since he knew them well, he felt that he needed to reinforce to Michael that he was no longer a friend.
You're now the suspect and I'm the deputy. Sit down on that couch. We got the second call from Skagit County that says we have probable cause. Put him under arrest.
Sergeant Davis put on the handcuffs.
And at that point, he looked at Linda again and said, "It's gonna be okay, babe."
Linda broke down.
She was crying even more now. She was basically hysterical at this point, sobbing, couldn't even make out the words that she was saying. She was completely emotional wreck at this time.
After he put Michael in the back of his car, Sergeant Davis walked out to grab whatever Michael had thrown down that embankment.
Once he's secured in the back of my car, I go and secure the garbage. It's basically a Walmart garbage sack, white garbage sack tied up.
How far away from the car was it?
It was probably 20 feet down an embankment from the car. And then I secure it in the floorboard of my front passenger of my vehicle.
He didn't open the bag. Sergeant Davis didn't want to risk spoiling the evidence, but he said that whatever was inside was heavy.
And after several minutes in my car, I started up smelling a bleach smell, a strong odor of bleach.
You smelled a strong odor of bleach coming from what was ever inside that bag?
Yes.
Skagit County deputies arrived later that night to search Michael's SUV, and Sergeant Davis gave them that unopened garbage bag.
They checked it after the warrant and discovered a firearm and what the rags and whatnot, what was in the bag.
What kind of gun?
It was a .22 pistol.
.22 caliber?
Yes.
But when they searched Michael's vehicle, there was no bundle of blankets. Investigators kept searching for Mark Stover's body.
Skagit County Sheriff's Office asked us to check any probable locations where a body may be dumped in water.
And as they gathered the evidence, Michael Oakes' story seemed more and more unbelievable.
So what are you telling me? You shot Mark Stover in self-defense?
Absolutely.
From 48 Hours, this is Trained to Kill, The Dog Trainer, The Heiress, and The Bodyguard, produced by Sony Music Entertainment. I'm your host, Peter Van Sant. Judy Tigard is the executive producer of 48 Hours. Original reporting by 48 Hours producers Ryan Smith and Liza Finley. Jamie Benson is the senior producer for Paramount Audio, and Maura Waltz is the senior story editor. Recording assistance from Alan Pang and Reginald Bazile. Special thanks to Paramount Podcast Vice President Megan Marcus. It is written and produced by Alex Schumann. Stephanie Serrano is our editor. Our executive producer is Shira Morris. Our associate producer is Zoe Culkin. Theme and original music composed by Hansdale Shee. Cedric Wilson is our sound designer and mixed the episodes. We also use music from APM and Epidemic Sounds. Fendel Fulton is our fact checker. Our production manager is Tamika Balance-Kolasny. I'm Peter Van Sant. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to rate and review. It helps more people find it and hear our reporting. You can listen to Trained to Kill early and ad-free right now by subscribing to 48 Hours Plus on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening.